Hi, I'm Dr. Water. I'm a doctor, the kind who keeps working adults healthy, occupational, and preventive medicine. Anyone who grew up on Dragon Ball has thought it at least once. If I just trained in a high-gravity room, could I get that strong? I get it. The more you train, the more limitlessly strong you get. That feeling of ever-climbing power is simply satisfying. So today, not as a review of the series, but as a story about your body, I'll check the math against real exercise physiology. The short version up front, there is a ceiling, but your early room to grow is bigger than you think, and the reason for that growth is probably not what you imagine. I'm not here to judge the series. I'm here to ask, if a human body did this, what would really happen? And back every medical claim with a paper. The more you train, the more limitlessly strong you get. Half yes. Bottom line, limitless, no? But the gains when you start training are real. First, a thing most people get wrong. The strength you gain in the first few weeks of training isn't because the muscle got bigger. In that period, the muscle looks almost unchanged, yet the force clearly rises. It's a well-known phenomenon in exercise physiology. This paragraph states it as textbook basic physiology. For the mechanism, see the next paragraph's DOI. Why? Because the brain gets better at issuing the command to the muscle. Specifically, more muscle fibers are recruited, motor unit recruitment, and they fire faster, rate coding. You become able to use more of the muscle you already had and use it faster. Primary research shows this is the main driver of early strength gains. Put another way, strength has two routes, making the muscle itself bigger, hypertrophy, and the brain mobilizing the muscle better, neural adaptation. The one that works first is the latter. Takeaway. If you feel stronger within weeks of starting, it's natural that the mirror hasn't changed. Your brain is in the middle of learning to use muscle that was asleep. No need to rush the weight up. So what sets your max power? Actually, your brain is holding a break. This is today's core. Maximum strength isn't decided by muscle thickness alone. Developing maximal strength depends significantly on neuromuscular adaptation. A stronger signal from brain to muscle, neural drive, larger EMG-measured activity, in addition to hypertrophy, as confirmed in a meta-analysis pooling multiple studies. Here's the fun part. When you're giving everything, you actually aren't. Your maximal voluntary contraction, the most force you can produce by will, MVC, is held below the muscle's true capacity. Even straining with all your might, most people can't recruit 100% of their fibers because of the brain's break. So the series, Raise Your Power by Training, isn't a total lie, physiologically. Not only thickening the muscle, but loosening the brain's brake so you can pour out the muscle you have. Both push real strength up. That training depiction is, surprisingly, onto something. Takeaway. Part of I'm not strong enough may not be a muscle shortage, just not fully pouring it out. Fixing form and practicing to brace correctly can draw a bit more force from the same muscle. It's said. Is Fireground superhuman strength real? Straight-faced here. In the work, a cornered character puts out wildly disproportionate strength for a moment. That last-ditch power-up, reality has something close. Remember the brain's break. When the nervous system's excitement rises briefly, an emergency, a strong shout, that brake loosens and normally suppressed force is released. This is one neurophysiological background of the so-called hysterical/fireground strength, emergency disinhibition. Now, straight-faced. This inhibition exists to protect you. Not producing full power routinely isn't a defect. It's a safety device keeping your tendons, joints, and the muscle itself from tearing. So please don't try to force that break off with hype shouting or break your limit energy. Force released by disinhibition can lead straight to serious injury, tendon rupture, muscle strain, fracture. Producing it once in an emergency and deliberately aiming to produce it daily are entirely different things. Fireground strength isn't a real superpower. More accurately, it's a state where the body, in an emergency, is exceptionally cutting into a safety margin it shouldn't touch. Takeaway. Don't aim to break your limit by willpower in daily training. Not producing full power isn't weakness. It's a safety device protecting your tendons and joints. To get stronger, don't force off the brake. Raise the ceiling itself with form and accumulation. It looks like the long way, and it's the least breakable one. I'll confess, writing this, I remembered a day I psyched myself up at the gym to break my limit, shouldered a weight I couldn't handle, and couldn't walk properly for days. The brain's break tends to punish, first, exactly the people who try to remove it. So don't copy it. Is there a born wall that training can't cross? Sadly, yes. So with correct training, can you go anywhere? Here a ceiling called genetics appears. Muscle has a break roll protein that suppresses its growth. Myostatin, GDF8, a negative regulator that works to keep muscle from increasing too much. In mice and in cattle, when this gene breaks, muscle increases excessively. And in humans, too, a case has been reported where a congenital loss of myostatin gene function produced marked muscle hypertrophy. More recent large-scale human data also show that people with these MSTN function-disrupting variants tend to have higher skeletal muscle mass and strength and less body fat. So, do the same training, and this ceiling of muscle and strength you can reach differs from person to person. One factor deciding it is this kind of genetic design. The work's born differences between species premises, put crudely, a heavily exaggerated version of this genetic ceiling. Effort can bring you near the ceiling, but the ceiling's height itself, you don't get to choose. One note of care. Myostatin-related hypertrophy is a real genetic state, not a cheat to get strong. Trying to increase muscle with drugs or doping aimed at this carries large health risks and is not recommended at all. What I've introduced is the science of a ceiling exists, not a method to break it. Please don't misread that. Takeaway: your ceiling and the person next to you have different born heights. So compare yourself not to others, but to your own ceiling. And most people quit long before they hit it. There's more room to grow than you think. Training alone won't make you infinitely strong. The genetic ceiling is real. But in the first weeks, your brain learns to use muscle that was asleep, and strength genuinely rises. And that ceiling sits far higher than most people think. Most just quit before their head hits it. So today's one line: rather than more muscle, pour out the muscle you have. And don't aim for fireground strength. That's just the body, in an emergency, stepping over a line it drew to protect you. Manga is a doorway into how strange the human body is. And the real body is far more interesting than you'd guess. See you at the next checkup. Thanks for watching. I'm Dr. Water. Subscribe for the next body check, and I'll see you at the next appointment.